Hey, welcome back. It's a terrific Tuesday on Liquid Lunch. I'm John Tobacco, and we go from your pension with Robert Kiyosaki and Ed Seidel and all the things you need to look out. And we go now to one of my favorite authors. Hilary Kramer joins us again. She's coming out. Today is the release of Game Changer Investing. And I like that photo you pictured there with a bull. I tend to come down on the bear side of things, Hilary. The book is great. What do people need to know? What can they learn in this book from you and the great insights here?
When it comes to investing, it's always about looking forward, right? You don't want to look in the rear view mirror, right, while you're driving. And it's the same thing with investing. We're all trying to grab yesterday's big winners. But the key is to understand the trends. You understand the trends, you really can't lose. It's basically the macro investing principle. I know a lot of people have problems with George Soros on the political side, but I'm telling you, as an investment guru, it's all about macro trends, and that could be anything from changes legally and regulation to geopolitical events. So, for example, on a short-term basis, you would look at the fact that the Middle East, with the assassination of Soleimani at the Baghdad airport, what does that mean? It means that there's going to be cyber terror, there are threats going on, and so companies come into the forefront and very quickly have contracts, and Wall Street starts investing in those as they assume that that's where the money is going to go. And then, of course, there's the bigger picture with game changer investing, and that includes travel to outer space, for example, and that. 50 years ago, it would have seemed impossible to think that we would have a phone and that phone can take photos and then we print it out in a printer in color. I mean, it just was impossible. A matter of fact, back then we had Kodak and Polaroid, as with such leadership. So the key is to understand what comes in the future. So in terms of outer space, it may be a matter of investing in Boeing, which is like a bad name right now on Wall Street, but probably has.
I think it's a good name, personally.
Oh, good. Okay.
I'm typically, we had a long discussion, you and I, about how I tend to look at stocks and find a reason to short sell them because I think they're going to go down in most instances, and you're all advocating for a bull market. But I talked to Arthur Cashin, one of my mentors, one of the finest men you'll ever meet, probably one of the smartest guys on the street. And he tells me that Boeing is really driving the whole Dow right now, and they're stabilizing. They just had some new leadership, and if they get the ship through the turbulence, that Boeing going up means the whole market's going up with it. What do you think about that?
That's absolutely right. Just like Boeing was an overhang, really, and one of the reasons the Dow didn't really hold a candle to NASDAQ over the past 6 months with all of this 737 MAX issues. And then, of course, there was the satellite launch that ended up in the wrong satellite, right? It ended up in the wrong track there and had to come back down. But the real key is, yes, Boeing has more than 100 points in it. I bet we're going to see Boeing in the next 2 years exceed its $440 high and it could be a $600 or $700 stock. I mean, just think about. And if we're
going to outer space, Boeing is probably going to be one of the key recipients of some of that new money, because you're going to go to someone now. Speaking of outer space, I want to bring in my co-host Frank Morano because he just got married.
That's right.
And he may need some tips on setting up his portfolio the right way.
Well, hello, Hilary. I'm a huge fan, as you know, and I'm eager to read the book. I noticed that you single out billion-dollar trends, how investors can make money with billion-dollar trends. How do you know what's a billion-dollar trend as opposed to a multi-million-dollar trend? And is there still money to be made if you find a trend that is going to do well, but maybe not billion-dollar well?
What a great question, Frank. I mean, a really, really good question. And which is really, how do you identify a billion-dollar trend from this multi-million or hundreds of millions? How do you find the Facebooks versus the niche, pet food online delivery companies? That's kind of the differential here. And the answer is you have to believe in the bigger future and look bigger long term. And there are these big hints out there. So you want to talk outer space? We just started another division of the military, which is
the Space Force.
Right. I mean, just think about that. And these private endeavors, whether it's Virgin Galactica, Tesla,
SpaceX.
Amazon, right, to go to space. So you realize it just seems so far off, but identifying those as really potential game changers. And then part of it is also taking a look at, a lot of the answers out there. I mean, of course, I have them in the book. I identify artificial intelligence, data mining, the changing family trends, of course, biotechnology, but it's taking a look at the demographics. So let's take biotechnology, Frank. We have to look at, what are the demographics here? Well, those baby boomers, 1945 to 1964, are many of them are either preparing for retirement or are actually in retirement. What are their issues? What's the longevity equation here? Everyone's going to live to be 110 to 120 years old, but with chronic illnesses. So looking at society, and I think so much of it is listening and opening up one's mind to what we see out there and not doubting ourselves. We tend to listen to Wall Street.
Well, speaking of doubt and speaking of Wall Street, you pointed out before how the Dow Jones has gone up 10,000 points since President Trump's been inaugurated. This has raised some concerns, particularly people that are concerned about the continued low interest rates that the Federal Reserve is putting out there, that we could be in the midst of a stock market bubble. How do we know when we're in a bubble, and is there still a way to profit as an investor from billion-dollar trends if, in fact, this does turn out to be a bubble?
You have hit the nail on the head, because, Frank, no one really wants to deal with it or talk about the fact that just from a gravity standpoint, leaving everything else aside, you can't have an 11-year bull market like this without some serious downturns. So the answer there is keep cash to the sidelines, make sure that when the market does have a downturn, because eventually, if you look at the chart, it always goes up over the long run. Days where the market is down 10% plus, you want to think of it as and of course we don't want to see that, but as a shopping day, an opportunity to have everything on sale that you've wanted, and take that longer term approach. You never want to be stuck and thinking, oh no, it's over. Anytime you have to pray that the market's going to go up, you're in trouble. You want to pray about everything else.
I didn't read that in any of my economic textbooks in college, praying as part of your investment strategy. I mean, that's probably not the way to go, right?
And yet so many people, that's what they end up doing through the night. And if you have cash aside, if you haven't gone concentrated in one bet, you're in good shape. And then always remember, invest in those companies like Hormel. You just got married. Hormel makes Spam. They make baked beans. Everyone is very reactionary, greed and fear. So as soon as the market takes a downturn, everyone thinks we're going to be eating Spam for the rest of mankind. And companies like Hormel jump up really quickly, and they have a great dividend yield, and you can never go wrong.
I'm doing everything I can to get Spam out of my life, my email box and everything. So I don't know if I want to invest in Spam necessarily. And if you ever opened a can of Spam, I don't know if you want to even look at it. But Hilary, thank you for your insights. This is a great book, Game Changer Investing, by Hilary Kramer. She's a regular. She's a great friend of contributor to the show, Pavlina Osta, who hopefully we'll have back on soon. And it's a pleasure to always see you. Thank you so much.
John.
You're excellent. Hilary Kramer, thank you for joining us today for a little liquid lunch. And go out and check out her book, Game Changer Investing. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back with some more liquid lunch right after this.